10 bizarre families you won't believe exist. Welcome back to Viral Now. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of our incredible videos. Today we discuss the top 10 most bizarre families to ever exist. What's the most unusual thing your family does? What are some awkward traditions carried down from family generations? Family movie nights, wearing ugly Christmas sweaters, or maybe that annual family vacation where all the uncles and aunts you hardly remember come? If you believe your family is weird, take a look at these 10 families. From strange to unusual to extremely peculiar behaviors, these families are more absurd than anyone can ever imagine. They will make yours look truly normal. 10. Granny and grandson romantic affair. Coming at number 10 is the incestuous affair between grandmother Pearl Carter and grandson Phil Bailey. In 2010, the headlines, "I'm in love with my grandson and I want to have a baby with him," hit the news. Pearl Carter, a 72-year-old, and her grandson of 30 years had both fallen madly in love with each other and were considering starting a family together. This craziness all started when Phil lost his mother and decided to look to his grandmother. His grandmother had given up Phil's mother after birth as she was not able to take care of her daughter. As a result, she was not present in Phil's life. After a short search, he finally tracked his grandmother and soon-to-be lover. When families reunite, there's usually joy, love, and happiness, but when Phil and Pearl reunited, there was not only love, but an unusual romantic attraction. The two soon publicized their relationship and declared their undying love for each other. Their connection was so strong that Pearl paid $35,000 of her pension money to get a surrogate to carry their child. The authorities got involved, and Pearl was soon arrested for incest. 9. The Bunker Brothers. Ever wondered where the word Siamese came from? Well, the word was first used to refer to the Bunker Brothers in Thailand. Cheng and Eng were born joined from the waist downwards. The two, despite all the odds, survived the early years and grew up to lead normal lives. Well, maybe not so normal. They toured the world and were featured in several circuses. Here, they got paid very well, making them filthy rich. The two got lucky and ended up wealthy and married. The wealthy part is normal, but married with kids makes you question how it was possible. Well, they married two sisters and both stayed in the same house, same room, and shared the same bed. The result was a total of 21 children. A few years later, the two sisters had a fallout and they moved houses, so the brothers had to take 2-week shifts from house to house. I'm pretty sure this can't be classified as adultery or incest. Or can it? Cheng fell ill in January 1784, and on the 17th of the same month he passed on. A few hours later, Eng died. They say the shock of being next to a dead body must have led to his death. 8. The Duggar family. Wouldn't you hate it if your family was broadcasted on reality TV, where all of your embarrassing actions and secrets were live for everyone in the world to see? Well, that was the case for the Duggars. To make it even more interesting, the family consists of 19 brothers and sisters. In 1984, Jim and Michelle, the parents to this vast family, got married. They decided not to have children until they were financially stable. Soon enough, they were well off and decided to add on to the family. Unfortunately, the first child was miscarried due to the excessive intake of contraception in their early years of marriage. They went to a church and asked God to bless them with a child. Their prayers were answered abundantly. Close to 3 decades later, Jim and Michelle have 19 children and a TV show called 19 and Counting. After a successful 10 seasons, the show had to be canceled when the eldest son, Josh Duggar, admitted to fondling 5 young girls, including some sisters. 7. Mary-Kate Letourneau and her student, Vili Fualau. You may or may not have had a silly crush on your teacher, which probably ended after a couple hours, if not days. All this is quite normal growing up. However, in some cases, students and teachers can take it too far. A great example of this case was when Mary-Kate Letourneau and her student Vili Fualau in 1996, when Vili Fualau was only 12 years old. Mary-Kate admitted to 2 felony accounts of raping him. At the time, Vili was her student in 6th grade. She was sentenced to 6 months in prison and sent to sex offender therapy. Nothing could stop her, as only a week later, she was spotted having sex with Vili in a car. She was sentenced again to 7 years in prison. After her release, the two met again in several television shows, and they were featured in magazines and books about forbidden love. All this must have rekindled their love for each other, as they ended up married in 2005, and now they have 2 kids. They filed for a separation recently after having disputes over the husband's decision to start a marijuana farm. She must have thought sexual predator and marijuana farmer won't look good on anyone's resume. 6. Isolated family. Now and then, every human being craves some alone time away from everyone else in isolation. The privacy can be great, but after a couple months, it can get devastatingly boring. However, this does not apply to the Gray family, who have been living in isolation on a 47-acre farm for years. This family is also referred to as the fugitive family. They have no respect for the government or the law. It started when John Joe, the head of the family, assaulted a police officer, skipped bail, and together with his family, decided to live in isolation. His reason for skipping bail and preceding court appearances was the fear of losing his weapons. He believes that a man is not a man without a gun. And within the same belief, he has raised 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Everyone carries a gun at all times apart from the youngest. The Gray family have lived together away from everyone else for 16 years. They have sworn on their lives to protect their land, and any intruder would face the consequences. No police officer has ever tried to enter their private property in fear of killing innocent family members. 5. The Jim twins of Ohio. Jim Springer and Jim Lewis are identical twins who were separated 3 weeks after birth. They were each adopted by a different family, but they ended up being raised 40 miles apart. The most interesting aspect about the two is that despite having not met until the age of 40, they lived incredibly identical lives. They were both named James by their new parents. Their relatives and friends also independently gave them the nickname Jim. Both of the boys had a dog named Toy growing up. In school, both of them were very good at math and woodwork. Each of the boys also performed poorly in spelling. If you think it's all a coincidence, then their adult similarities will completely startle you. They were both married twice. The first time to a woman named Linda. They filed for divorce with the first wife at the same time to get married to another woman named Betty. They each had 1 son, and both were named James Allen. The 2 twins were heavy smokers, and they drove a similar car, a Chevrolet. They even had similar careers. Jim Springer was a deputy sheriff, and Jim Lewis a security guard. They even took vacations on the same beach around the same time. All this can't just be a coincidence. I wonder what nurture versus nature debaters have to say about it. 4. The Lion family. Most families tend to go for cats, dogs, hamsters, or parrots for pets. Not the Marshall family. They opted to take up lions as pets. And not just 1 lion, but a whole pride of 100. So why would anyone in their right mind choose this insane way of life? They wanted to shoot the most dangerous film in history, so for 11 years, Noel Marshall and his family put their lives at risk just to shoot the film Roar. Together with 100 lions and 40 other wild animals, they moved 40 miles north of Los Angeles and settled in a ranch with an abandoned house. The movie took years to film, as they couldn't shoot a scene without fatal injuries. In the end, 70 people were injured. Tippi Hedren, Noel's wife, ended up with deep skull wounds and a fractured leg. His daughter was almost mauled to death at the end of the movie. She later had to get reconstructive surgery and 100 stitches. This family is beyond insane. It would have been a bit worth it if the film made at least some profits, but it didn't. The movie cost $17 million to make and only turned $2 million profit. Yikes. 3. The Tarver de Vaau killers. The average middle-class family next door could be serial killers. We have the Tarver de Vaau family to thank for this paranoia. Who would have ever thought that a dentist and his wife, a kindergarten teacher, together with their 2 daughters, one a teenager, would be serial killers? The Tarver de Vaau family is responsible for the death of 30 humans, including children and police officers. The family would attack, kill, and rob people as a means of getting money despite having a good home and leading a comfortable life. The family's mafia life came to an end when police killed Podkapev during a gunfire battle. His wife, Inessa, was also severely hurt during that same fight. Later, the wife and kids confessed to all their horrible deeds in court. 2. The Colt family. This is one of the most horrific stories in history. In 2012, a child overheard a story of an unkempt, dirty girl living in the woods who was pregnant by her brother. The news got to the police, and after further investigations, to great dismay, it was all true and a whole lot worse than they expected. The police discovered a clan of around 40 people living in squalid sheds and tents deep in the woods. The group of people slept in makeshift beds and had no access to clean water or electricity. Within the community, there were 12 children born with great deformities. Some had impaired vision, abnormal facial features, hearing and speech difficulties, and coordination issues due to incestuous relationships of their parents. As if it couldn't get worse, the children had skin diseases, were illiterate, didn't even know how to use tissue paper, and slept next to their feces. The children were also victims of sexual abuse by their uncles, aunts, older brothers, and sisters. 12 adults were arrested, and the children sent to foster homes. 1. Teresa Knorr. For those who know the story of Teresa Knorr, they wouldn't hesitate to refer to her as the mother from hell. She killed her husband, tortured her children, killed some of them, and forced the remaining ones to cover up her tracks. It all started in 1963 when Teresa Knorr killed her husband. This was a year after the birth of her first child, and she was heavily pregnant with the second one. The two had argued, and her husband threatened to leave when she shot him dead. She claimed self-defense and got an acquittal. She gave birth in the year 1965 to her second child, and by 1966, she was already pregnant again and married to another man. Together with Robert Knorr, they had 4 children. They divorced, and she married 2 more men, with whom she divorced as well. At this point, she was an alcoholic and often beat her children as a way of managing her anger. As a result, 2 of her kids died gruesomely, and the rest were forced to cover up. All her evil deeds would have gone unpunished if it were not for Terry Marie Knorr, one of her surviving daughters, who reported her to the police. So that's going to do it for this video, the top 10 most bizarre families. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an excellent day.